Hello, everyone. It's Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and that means it's time for Dangerous Ideas. Welcome. Thanks for being here. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but I got a big show for you today. We're gonna cover how the State Department, the U.S. government, has just announced that you too can help Coup Venezuela and receive $50 million for helping to do so. Also, going to get into Trump edging ever closer to martial law in the U.S. Capitol, Washington, D.C., where I lived for many years. He also mentioned other cities where he would like to bring in martial law, which doesn't seem dictatorial at all. You know, there's nothing that reeks of a dictator here in the slightest. No, just martial law in cities for absolutely no reason. It's not that there's an actual emergency, which is what is required for him to actually exert these powers. Anyway, we'll get into that. We'll also get into more on the Online Safety Act that has already been passed in the UK. They're pushing it in the United States, and it's designed to just make it so that the governments can arrest you and stop you from posting anything they don't like. Now, they already do that to some degree, but they would like to be able to do it a lot more. We're going to get into all that, and I can give you a 90% chance that today I am actually going to get to the more in-depth story from Ray McGovern on Russiagate and the new revelations that continue to come out of what a shit show it was and what a laughable hoax it was. All of that's coming up right now. Please click like and thumbs up and all of those things to help support the show. And we'll do it, and leave a comment. And if you're watching this live, you can leave a comment and it shows up on the screen now. So you get that added benefit of knowing that billions of people around the world will see your comment on that screen. I mean, I will say we're only in the lower billions. Like, we only get like 1.2 billion watchers a day. But you know, still that counts as, I'm counting that as billions. Thanks for being here, everybody. But let's start off with Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing that, and I don't know why they picked this country of all the countries. I'm not sure why this is the one, but just for some odd reason, they want you to let you know they'll give you $50 million to help them coup Venezuela. Here she is.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing
I feel like she's talking a little fast, you know. She might have done a bump or two before she started speaking. Hold on one second.
Today, the Department of Justice and State Department are announcing a historic $50 million reward for information leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro.
First of all, shall we address the fact that she totally is kept hostage? I mean, this is a proof of life video. There's no doubt. I mean, look at her eyes. There's a gun to her head while she says this. But anyway, $50 million to get Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela. By the way, did she just call him the president of Venezuela?
Leading to the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Maduro uses foreign...
Oh, no, they won't call him. Okay, I was wondering what she actually said, president of Venezuela, because they like to pretend he's not the president of Venezuela. They like to pretend that they have, there's other presidents of Venezuela, like Juan Guaido, or insert other opposition person that is new president of Venezuela that we made up. But let's keep hearing this amazing accusations against Maduro. I mean, I can't believe these. This is terrible.
Terrorist organizations like TDA, Sinaloa, and Cartel of the Suns to bring deadly drugs and violence into our country.
Deadly draw, all that Venezuelan violence. You guys, you felt it, right? Oh my God, not a day goes by that a Venezuelan doesn't beat me over the head with a metal pole here in the United States of America. Those goddamn Venezuelans. Oh, they're always beating people up on the streets. Constant.
The DEA has seized 30 tons of cocaine linked to Maduro and his associates, with nearly 7 tons linked to Maduro himself.
That's right, folks. Bet you didn't know that Maduro himself is sending cocaine to the United States. Because why not? Yeah, so this is what's called hilarious and dumb and stupid and fake. But it's the United States has to get Maduro. They've been trying to coup Venezuela for like decades now. They just can't get it to stick. Oh, we're so close. I mean, you could spend this entire hour of this show listing and detailing all of the attempted coup attempts. The coup attempts in Venezuela by the United States, not least of which during the last Trump administration, the Bay of Piglets coup, which was one of the funnier ones, where they sent 60 scraggly dudes with guns on boats into Venezuela, and they were arrested by, before they even got to the mainland. So that's one. You got the drone that blew up in Maduro's face, and he luckily survived, but that was connected to the U.S. and CIA. You've got the actual coup that actually did succeed for several days of Chavez before Maduro, back in, was it 2004, I believe, that was also connected to the United States. But the people ultimately rose up in Venezuela and got him back into office after only a couple of days. That was a U.S. coup attempt. You've got just an endless array. That Venezuela found a bunch of guns being brought into Venezuela by CIA-connected groups. These are all U.S. coup attempts of Venezuela. Now, why could it be, of all the countries in Latin America, and we've couped many of the countries in Latin America, but you'll notice that Venezuela is one which they just talk about a lot more. They don't put $50 million on the head of every Latin American leader. So why specifically Venezuela? Well, we'll get to that in 1 minute. Let me let her finish her very important, very factual, very accurate, very unbiased accounting here.
Which represents a primary source of income for the deadly cartels based in Venezuela and Mexico. Cocaine is often laced with fentanyl, resulting in the loss and destruction of countless American lives. The DOJ has seized over $700 million of Maduro-linked assets, including 2 private jets, 9 vehicles, and more. Yet,
so somehow we stole his assets as an accusation against him? I think that just means the United States is a lawless terrorist entity. We stole a lot of his stuff, because she's like listing things that Maduro did, right? Or she made up that he did. He had cocaine in his rectum, and he smuggled it himself into the United States. We have video of him pulling out pounds of cocaine out of his buttocks right across the border in New Mexico. She's accusing him of things, and then she throws in there, we've also stolen a lot of his stuff. Is that an accusation? No, we're just letting you know. We took his planes. We took billions of dollars. We took Citgo, an entire gas company. We gave much of those billions of dollars to Juan Guaido, a Venezuelan idiot who had never received a vote for president, but that's okay.
Maduro's reign of terror continues. He is one of the...
We stole his jets. That's his reign of terror. Do you understand how sentences work? Like how they connect? Anyway.
Largest narco traffickers in the world,
yes,
and a threat to our national security. Therefore, we've doubled his reward to $50 million. Under President Trump's leadership, Maduro will not escape justice, and he will be held accountable for his despicable crimes. If you have any information to bring this criminal to justice, call 1-20.
She gives a phone number. It's like a telethon. Hey, can we get anyone else to call in and help us try and get Maduro? The real reason, and by the way, for anybody out there who's dumb enough to think they're going to get the $50 million for helping the U.S. coup Venezuela or kill Maduro or what have you, when was the last time the United States stuck to something they promised? Do you honestly believe the United States, anytime they promise anything? Okay, so you risk your life and you go and, like, I don't know, try and assassinate Maduro. You think the U.S. is really going to give you the $50 million? Yeah, don't worry. I know you're in prison right now, but that'll be in your bank account any moment now. Totally. But okay, let's just for a moment get back. And, I've addressed it a bunch before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But let's address, why is it that Venezuela is the #1 Latin American country we have to get? We have to stop. We have to $50 million on the head of Venezuela. Why is that? I mean, Trump hates Lula, and he hates Brazil, and he put a giant tariff on Brazil, but he's not offering $50 million for the capture of Lula. So why Venezuela? Could it be that Venezuela of all the 200 countries almost in the world, has all of the oil. Venezuela has more oil under its ground than any country in the world. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Iraq, more than Iran, more than Libya, more than all of the oil places, Venezuela. And so the US petrodollar, people are petrified. Get it? See what I did there? Of Venezuela actually exporting their oil around the world, because it would be exported outside of US dollars, which would destroy the US petrodollar strangulation of the world. They need absolutely 100%. The US empire needs Venezuela's oil to not get shipped around the world, or else the petrodollar just collapses. And it is the reason the US is as powerful as we are. So that's what it has to do with. And yes, they want to take out Maduro, but the truth is they don't, like, let's say they arrested Maduro. Let's say they go in there, they arrest Maduro and they put him in a US prison or what have you. What do you think happens next? Do you think the US just lets Venezuela have a legitimate election? Do you think they're like, okay, Venezuela, Maduro was a bad guy, but now you can just go and elect who you want to lead your country? Have at it. Fucking no. That is not what happens next. What happens next is the U.S. installs someone in the power vacuum, probably an opposition leader, maybe Juan Guaido, who's never received a single vote for president of the United States, for president of Venezuela. Maybe that's who they put in there. But whoever it is, they would not allow a legitimate election, which shows how bullshit their statements are. Because if it was just about stopping Maduro, and, you know, we saw him with the cocaine in his rectum, then if it were just about stopping Maduro, then they'd let Venezuela have an election. They had no intention of Venezuela having a legitimate election after Maduro. But also everything else they're saying about Maduro is utterly not factual and just completely made up. It's fan fiction for those who want to create a coup in Venezuela. But you too can help coup Venezuela. When you get a chance, you could get $50 million by just coupping Venezuela. So have at it, folks. Have at it. All right, let's keep moving here. Please remember to click thumbs up, share this, let folks know I continue to fight crazy amounts of suppression. The latest that I'm facing is Google, which owns YouTube, has decided to block me from getting into the new YouTube channel that I created because I wanted a kind of fresh start on a YouTube channel. Well, that lasted about a month before Google said, yeah, we're just going to ban you for behavior that we claim is wrong. What was that behavior, Google? Oh, we don't know. Just we didn't like certain behaviors. So I'm now banned from that account for them unless this appeal works, which I assume they won't even respond to. But okay, moving on. Trump has announced that he's inching closer to martial law in Washington, D.C. I lived in Washington, D.C. for 8 years. I was also born in Washington, D.C. I guess all told, 16 years. 8 years, 8 years at the beginning of my life, 8 years in the later part of my life. So technically all told 16 years, but I lived there 8 years recently. And Trump is inching closer to martial law. He has announced that he will put the DC police under his control, under the control of the U.S. government. He's now saying Pam Bondi, the person you just saw, that hostage victim that you just saw on the screen there, she's now technically running the DC police. So he's putting it under his control. He's also deploying the National Guard. Now, you might go, oh, my God. And actually, I got a text from someone in another country who was worried about me and goes, oh, my God, be safe. I don't know what's going on in Washington, D.C., but I saw that Trump's, bringing in the National Guard and stuff. Nothing is happening on the streets of D.C. It's the same as it's always been. Is there some crime in D.C.? Yeah, but guess what? It's also at a 30-year low, the crime in D.C. I lived in D.C. for 8 years. I stopped living there 3 years ago and lived there 8 years. Now I live in Baltimore, which is not far away. And never was the victim of crime, never saw any crime, never heard any crime. I don't know anyone who lived in D.C. who was beaten up or robbed. The only crime that I saw, and actually I saw this several times, was police beating people and arresting people for being peaceful protesters. I saw that many times. That is actually the only crime I saw going down in Washington, D.C. And the crime in D.C. is lower now than it was when I lived there. And the only kind of larger crime, like a murder, that I heard about in like, I don't know, proximity to me, I guess, in a certain way, was one of the correspondents from Redacted Tonight, Jonathan O'Donnell. He lived in a neighborhood, which is not too far from me, half a mile or something. He lived in a neighborhood where a guy was like murdered, and supposedly it was a robbery gone wrong, but they didn't take anything. It was very odd, just kind of like murder in the middle of the night. And so that is very scary. That man's name was Seth Rich. So that's the crime. If that's a crime Trump's trying to stop, then more power to you. President Donald Trump announced Monday he was putting the Washington, D.C. Police Department, which is kind of weird because Washington, D.C., sorry to keep interrupting, but interrupt myself, is Washington, D.C. has 17 police departments. So I don't know if he just means the literal Washington, D.C. police. That is one of 17 different, not police departments, types of police, species, if you will, of police in Washington, D.C. You've got Park Police. You've got the Capitol Police. You've got White House. You've got Secret Service. You've got like all these different levels of law enforcement. DHS is sometimes wandering around involved in other things. Like there was one time where the cops had come to kick out homeless people. And so some of us went to kind of report on it and cover it. And the cops bulldozed a bunch of tents. They ended up nearly killing a guy who was in one of the tents because they thought they'd gotten everyone out of the tents. So they nearly murdered a homeless person bulldozing these tents. But during that, there was a very mean law enforcement person there, meaner than the others, who was DHS, Department of Homeless Care. And kind of like, what does this have to do with DHS? Like nearly murdering homeless people. But anyway. So I don't know if Trump is talking about all 17 departments or if he just means DC police. But anyway, under federal control and deploying National Guard on the streets of the nation's capital, a striking move taken over the objections of local leaders who say Trump is exaggerating the city's crime problems. And the real reason for this, I think most people know, is these are test balloons to see if Trump can have martial law. He's pushing places towards martial law. He did it in Los Angeles by sending the National Guard there. He's doing it in D.C. He's now talked about doing it in New York and Chicago. These are kind of it's a test to see how well martial law works out. Martial law, as you know, is essentially military rule. It's a dictator's toolbox, and these are tools that we've given to the U.S. president so that he can move towards dictator. Trump said he declared a public safety emergency, even though crime is the lowest it's been in 30 years, and invoked Section 740 of the District Columbia Home Rule Act, which gives the president the authority to commandeer D.C.'s police department in conditions of an emergency nature. So here's the thing that Trump and previous presidents have realized to some degree is that you can call anything an emergency. When you say emergency nature, it's like, oh, the president could be like, I have been farting a lot today. One could call this a national emergency. So I'm going to operate, I'm going to bring in the National Guard and I'm going to take over the police department because I have just been ripping them and this is an emergency. Like you can call anything an emergency. Attorney General Pam Bondi is now in charge of the Metropolitan Police. He did not specify how long the federal takeover of DC police would last. Trump is launching a rare expansion of presidential authority over local government and said he would not stop the nation's capital. In addition to Washington, Trump also mentioned other cities such as New York City, Baltimore, where I live, and Oakland. They're so far gone, he said. This will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C. Yes, even though crime is lower in most of these places than it's been in years. In fact, Baltimore had the fewest murders they've had in a month. Baltimore's notoriously a tough city. It's a poor city. It's had a lot of trouble over the past many years. No one's denying that. But this past April or so, one of the recent months, was the lowest number of murders they had in like 30 years. Like, crime is actually going down. Now, when Trump says he's going to stop crime, it's tough to know whether he means like getting rid of people who are sexual predators with justifiable rape accusations against them, and also like 1,000 different lawsuits against him, and like those type of people who have broken many federal and local laws. It's tough to know whether Trump's going after those people because he'd be first on that list. So, I mean, one can hope. One can hope he's going to send the DC police after him. I don't know. A move some critics warn may be a prelude to the president declaring martial law, which involves a military rule over a civilian population in times of crisis or emergency. Trump on Monday declared a public safety emergency in Washington, D.C., even though violent crime in the city is at a 30-year low, and said the 800 National Guard members will soon be stationed in the city. The other reason he's doing this is to stop any kind of protests. So he wants protests to stop before they start. So if you are starting a protest in Washington, D.C., he wants to send in the National Guard to make it far more threatening. It's really just a giant threatening, toolbox for him to arrest people. I mean, often people, when you send in idiot National Guards with big guns, people can end up getting killed, like Kent State. Of course, the police also will often accidentally, quote unquote, murder people when they're sent in. So who knows what could end up happening. Trump's takeover of the Metropolitan Police Department comes 4 years after the department's officers were violently attacked by Trump supporters on January 6, 2021. And no matter, there's complaints about the way January 6 was covered and some of the real truth behind it, but you can't deny that cops were attacked. And I don't think anyone denies that. More than 140 police officers were injured during the 7 hours that a mob laid siege to the Capitol. So I don't know that anyone denies those numbers, but anyway. So this is the second time he's sent in the National Guard so far in this second term. The first time was Los Angeles. Well, second time he sent it in against a city's request, which doesn't really happen. It hasn't happened since the 50s that the National Guard military was sent in to a state without that state requesting National Guard, like in a natural disaster. But so it seems definitely to be an inching towards martial law, kind of a testing out of how effective it is, how much he can get away with, whether anything stops him, whether the courts stop him. You see an ongoing modus operandi of the Trump administration of seeing what things that are normally people you'd think would create a lot of outrage, might create lawsuits and go through the courts. Trump and his goons do them, and they see what happens. They see what the fallout is. Is there really a large scale fallout, or do the courts actually stop him? And then they see what they can get away with. Also, they set precedents. It's like once Trump sends National Guard into a couple of states, the first one was California that didn't request it. Okay, now it's a thing. He's sending National Guard in states. People start to become accustomed. We're really good humans, and Americans are really good at just habituating to whatever the new normal is. Like, oh, okay, the president just often sends military into our states without the governor even requesting it. In fact, the governor coming out and saying, don't do this. Okay, that's the norm now. Well, that's a new norm. Isn't that fun? So, yeah, another move by Trump that is totally horrific. So, all right, I want to move on to some news about Israel's ongoing genocide. Please click thumbs up, leave a comment. Your comment will go up on the screen if you're watching this live. Couple of announcements. There was a new unredacted knife this past Thursday. I'm hopefully going to show a clip at the end of this episode, a little part of it. But on top of that, there's another one coming up this coming Thursday. Unredacted Night's really growing, and thank you guys for that. And, you know, it really depends on you all, whether you let people know, because it used to be that I could post something and then I could use my social media channels, which technically have a bunch of followers, like Twitter with 200 and whatever, 30,000 followers, and Facebook with 330,000. And those, I used to be able to let people know about my posts. But because all my stuff is shadow banned now, it's like I post something on Twitter and, you know, it's farting into the wind on a mountaintop. I don't know why I've had two fart jokes on this episode. I'm sorry. That's bigger than my quota. Normally it's one fart joke per episode, and now I've doubled that, which is pretty hectic times. But I feel like they both were pretty good analogies, so I'm going to stand by them. I'm going to stand by them. So need your help getting the word out about Unredacted tonight, and yeah, new episode airs this coming Thursday. Also, join up at means.tv. Someone joined up recently and said they couldn't find where to insert the promo code, because you use promo code Lee and the word Lee, and you get 20% off. And they couldn't find it. It's technically called a coupon code. Sorry, I was saying promo code. And when you go to put in your credit card or whatever, however you're paying, there's a little thing up in the right corner above that says coupon code. So click that, not promo code. Sorry if you thought those were two different things. Same thing. But yes, Means TV, the only American worker-owned, anti-capitalist, pro-peace, anti-war, pro-Palestine streaming network in existence. It's got Abby Martin, Sam Sachs, Richard Wolf, and you're not just supporting my show when you use my promo code, but you also support all of those networks, because it is worker-owned. Everyone gets a cut when people join up. So it's like, you're becoming a member of Netflix with all these movies and series and everything that's on there, but you're also supporting all these awesome creators. And I'm proud to now have Unredacted tonight as part of means.tv. Just go to means.tv and you'll find it. Okay, let's keep going though. And in case I forget to mention it later, I'm sorry to say no live stream Wednesday. I have to go to an event, but maybe I'll try and bring you an extra one Thursday or something. We'll see. But there'll definitely be another one on Friday and an Unredacted night on Thursday. Okay. Let's watch. This is interesting because it's a Republican representative, Brian Steele, during another town hall. And these guys, by the way, all these Republicans are being told not to do town halls because they can't handle them, because Americans, want things like free healthcare and stuff like that, want to be like a modern country in the world. And it's very upsetting. So they're being told not to do town halls. Some of them still do them. Brian Steele did this one. And it's interesting because over the course of this 3-minute clip, you'll see it. The first guy yelling about Gaza gets probably 10%, 20% of the crowd cheering, and many of them booing because they're Republicans. And they're like, shut up. We like our guy on stage. But the more this fucking shill talks, he slowly turns more of the audience against him so that you get more of the audience cheering for Gaza by the end of this clip. Let's check it out. I'm sure I'll interrupt it at some point, but
people have a right of free speech.
Dude, yet again, these guys did a lot of cocaine. No, here we go.
People have a right of free speech.
What do you have to say about that, Brian?
I have to say, shut up.
Oh, Brian Style. I mispronounced his name. Sorry. Also, for those of you listening to the podcast, he said 2 million people starving in Gaza. I know it's a little hard to hear. And his response, Brian Styles' response was, shut up.
I have to say, shut up.
2 million people!
Whoa.
2 million people are starving. Do you have a heart? Do you have a heart? Show us your heart.
All right, we're a little bit over. I'm hoping we can take one more. So Nancy.
So they get him, there's a cut there. They get him to quiet, or they get that guy to quiet, and they get the audience to quiet back down. But you'll notice most of the crowd was basically telling that guy to shut up. There's probably 10% of the crowd with him. And the more this idiot talks, the worse it gets.
Steve Frank from Elkhorn. Bring us home, Nancy.
I want to have you address the question that was shouted about the starving children in Gaza, but also the
Let the woman get a question.
but also the hungry children in Wisconsin due to SNAP and food bank cuts.
To the first question that you asked, which is relates to the challenges that we've seen between Hamas and Israel. To me,
First of all, he has to couch it as Hamas and Israel, right? Because it's really the Palestinian people. I mean, you can't be starving and murdering 2 million people in Gaza and say it's between Hamas and Israel. It's between Gaza or Palestinians and Israel is the truth. But they can't say that because then people would understand what's really happening.
the easy answer to address this crisis is for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages. That ends the war.
But listen to us, because that stupidity gets more of the crowd turned against him, Hamas to release the hostages, because you know that, first of all, whether they have hostages or not, you can't just murder children every day for 2 years. Oh, yeah, well, they have hostages, so we'll just murder all the kids we can see. That's not how anything works. International law, it's not being moral, it's just utterly repulsive. But on top of that, and most people don't understand this, Israel has 10,000 Palestinian hostages right now. 10,000. So the whole release to hostages is garbage. They had 5,000 hostages before October 7th. So shut up with the release to hostages unless Israel is going to release the 10,000 hostages, which they are not.
Israel was unfairly, unjustly attacked. Their civilians were killed and kidnapped.
Most civilians killed on October 7th were killed by Israel, and I hope you guys know that by now.
By Hamas terrorists. Israel has a right to defend itself.
Can you please let her hear her answer?
He has totally lost this whole crowd because of his stupid answers. Like when the yelling started, he probably had 10% of the crowd against him. Now it's like 80% are like, shut the fuck up, you shill who has received $130,000 in contributions from AIPAC alone.
I never knew Ukraine.
The gentlewoman has the right to hear the answer.
It's genocide. You believe in genocide? Do something about it.
And by the way, what do you think the end result is of this town hall? Do you think they're going to sit there and actually address these accusations, actually address the calls of genocide, actually address what it is? No, the next step is shut it down. This town hall is over.
We may disagree with this, and that's fine.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming tonight.
So,
We're going to close it off here because there's no point in continuing.
let me know this. I just, as it relates to your question, I'm of the view that Israel has a right to defend itself, and the easy and simplest way to end this horrific war is for Hamas to surrender and release their hostages. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight.
Shut it down. Also, the old bullshit argument, Israel has the right to defend itself. This is not defense, my friends. This is a fucking genocide. There's a difference. So this whole defend itself, oh really? Do the Gazan people have the right to defend themselves? Oh no, that's not defense. That's an attack. Anything Israel does is defense. Oh, I see. Completely different. But so, yeah, now they shut it down and they just end the thing because they can't actually address these issues. Okay, same topic. Israel has assassinated more journalists, at least one of them very well known, Anas al-Sharif, among 5 Al Jazeera staff killed by Israel in Gaza. Al Jazeera journalist Anas al-Sharif has been killed alongside 4 colleagues in a targeted Israeli attack on a tent housing journalists in Gaza City. This is the assassination of journalists, and more journalists have been murdered in Gaza than any modern war, and probably any war ever, because there weren't that many journalists going. You go back to medieval times, there weren't tons of guys with a little pad and pen recording what was happening. So I would venture to say this is more journalists killed in war than ever, because it's more journalists than were killed in World War II by a lot. It's more journalists than killed in Vietnam by a lot. Yes, over 200 journalists have been assassinated by Israel. And if you count people who, may not have on a press jacket, but are reporting what's happening via Instagram or wherever they can get it posted online, and they are also murdered. If you count those, you're talking hundreds of journalists and citizen journalists murdered by Israel. The attack later on Sunday on the tent located outside the main gate at Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital also killed Al Jazeera correspondent Mohammed Kreka and camera operators Ibrahim Zaher, Mohammed Nufal, and Mauman Aliwa. Freelance reporter Mohammed Al-Khaldi was also among those reported killed. Shortly before being killed, Al-Sharif, a well-known 28-year-old Al Jazeera Arabic correspondent who had reported extensively from northern Gaza, wrote on X that Israel had launched intense concentrated bombardment on the eastern and southern parts of Gaza and of Gaza City. In his last video, the loud booms of Israel's intensive missile bombing can be heard in the background as the dark sky is lit in a flash of orange light. In his final message, which was published after his death, he wrote it on April 6th, but he wanted it published after his death. He said he lived the pain in all its details and tasted grief and loss repeatedly. Despite that, I never hesitated to convey the truth as it is without distortion or misrepresentation, hoping that God would witness those who remained silent, those who accepted our killing, and those who suffocated our very breaths. Not even the mangled bodies of our children and women moved their hearts or stopped the massacre that our people have been subjected to for over a year and a half. The reporter also expressed sorrow for having had to leave his wife behind and not seeing his son and daughter grow up. In a statement, Al Jazeera media condemned the killings as yet another blatant and premeditated attack on press freedom. In order to assassinate al-Sharif, one of Gaza's bravest journalists, and his colleagues, is a desperate attempt to silence the voices exposing the impending seizure and occupation of Gaza. Al Jazeera called on the international community to take decisive measures to halt this ongoing genocide in the deliberate targeting of journalists. Al Jazeera emphasizes that immunity for perpetrators and the lack of accountability emboldens Israel's actions and encourages further oppression against witnesses to the truth. So yet more assassination of journalists going on in Gaza. And this will serve as a little segue from that to the next topic. In the UK, police confirmed that 466 people, in the UK, were arrested under the Terrorism Act today, the largest number of arrests in history by the Metropolitan Police at a single protest was for people holding signs that say, "I oppose genocide. I support Palestine Action." Palestine Action, of course, is an impressive group that has done a lot of actions for Palestine, and they've now been declared by the UK state as a terrorist organization, because that makes a lot of sense. And so these people sat there with signs that said, "I oppose genocide, I support Palestine Action," and 466 were arrested for holding a sign, for holding a fucking sign. And in that regard, Council Estate Media has written a good article on mainly the UK, although he also mentions the US's attempts. But the UK has passed a law called the Online Safety Act that is designed to basically stop us all from talking about Israel and other things that the UK government doesn't want you to talk about. Since the Online Safety Act came into effect we've seen an awful lot of political censorship and nothing in the way of saving children, because that's how it was sold to the UK people. And for those of you in the United States, they're using this same, template to try and get this passed in the United States. It's actually already been introduced in Congress, and it's not law yet, but they're headed in that direction. So, when the UK does something oppressive like this that the US wants to mimic, then the US often uses it as an example. So anyway, they sold it in the UK as this is to protect children. We need the Online Safety Act to protect children. And he's saying in this article, children's lives have not been improved by this bill, but all of us have seen a loss of privacy and loss of information we should be allowed to access in a free society. The level of overreach is off the charts. Section 179 bans people from saying something false that could cause non-trivial psychological harm. But of course, who's defining that? The fucking government. Potentially banning humor and satire. Oh, you said something that was satirical and it caused, this person to feel psychological harm because they misunderstood your joke. Well, that means you're a terrorist now. It could also ban any speech that counters a government narrative and is therefore deemed false. If your government decides there is no genocide and you say there's nothing stopping them from deeming this misinformation and banning you. While you might not think, and of course, that's not just genocide. It could also be, hey, the Ukraine war is a proxy war between the West and Russia and was created and crafted by the West to draw Russia in. Well, the UK says, no, that's not true at all. Well, we're banning you because that is false. Or you say, Russiagate was bullshit, and we actually have all of the receipts now showing it was bullshit, and they go, oh, that's so false. We're now banning you. He then goes on to mention someone who I'm a fan of. He says, while you might not think things would go this far, you should remember that at the start of the Ukraine war, social media users were banned for challenging the narrative, including popular YouTubers like Lee Camp. What? I've heard of that guy. Glenn Deason and Rachel Blevins. Rachel, of course, I worked with. She was also at RT in the news division. Their message was peace, and many of the things that they were banned for are now accepted as true, such as arguing the war was unwinnable and could lead to World War III. The Ministry of Truth now gets to decide which online content is factual or harmful, and that will always be a political decision. There is no impartial way of doing that. It is incredibly easy to label any challenge to official narrative as harmful. Those who opposed the Iraq War were being harmful because they were Saddam sympathizers. You remember that, right, folks? You remember if you said, oh, there are no weapons of mass destruction, and why are we bombing innocent people? And people would go, oh, you're a Saddam sympathizer. You're helping Saddam. You might recall a famous moment, Janine Garofalo, one of the few celebrities at the time, like upper-level celebrities at the time, who was willing to go on television and say we should not be at war in Iraq because everybody else was a fucking ballless piece of shit. Thank you, Circle Home, for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. But she went on Fox News, and there's a famous clip of her saying there's no weapons of mass destruction. What's our goal? How many innocent people need to die? And the first response from the Fox News hosts was, wow, Saddam Hussein must love you. Because that's all they have, right? Oh, you're a Saddam lover. You're a Hamas lover. You're an Assad lover. You're a Gaddafi lover. That's all they can do because they have no actual debate. They have no actual argument. Those who oppose Israel's genocide are anti-Semites. Those who oppose the Online Safety Act are pedos, as we call them, or pedos, as they call them. No, I guess we would call them pedo. Maybe we say pedos too. I don't know. We say pedophiles. They say pedophiles, so therefore they call them pedos. It's very confusing. I think we need to get this hashed out, okay? You see how easy it is to label opposing views as harmful? The government is now so desperate that it is resorting to calling people pedophiles for opposing the Online Safety Act. Given most people oppose the implementation of the act, they're accusing majority of the population of pedophilia. It's hard to see how their messaging could be worse. Have you considered it strange that countries across the world suddenly decided online safety needed to be passed immediately, all simultaneously? All these governments were like, online safety bills. Well, they're actually truth bills. They're designed to declare what is allowable truth on your television or newspapers. Thank you, Yepex, for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. I do not frown upon super chats. They are very, very important way of supporting this show. Also, you can join up at leecamp.net. Thank you to everybody at Locals. You make this show possible. leecamp.net, where you can hang out, watch the show with amazing other humans, and it really is a great community over there. leecamp.net. Join up. Okay, if the U.S. can't introduce... even the U.S. is trying to get around its pesky First Amendment with multiple bills. The UK doesn't have the First Amendment, so they have an easier time with these things. With multiple bills aiming to censor online speech, such as the Kids Online Safety Act. That's the one that's going through Congress right now. If the U.S. can't introduce such laws, it will depend on so many of its allies introducing censorship rules that they become the new global standard. It will reach a point where it's easier for big tech to censor the entire planet than to have different sets of rules for different countries. This means we will be subjected to the most draconian interpretation of these laws. And let's see. The UK government has not made the slightest attempt to protect your data or right to free speech. So they're not actually protecting you. They're just using it to crush speech. As the Adam Smith Institute points out, 80% of the legislation is more concerned with censorship and non-safeguarding matters. TikTok has also hired a former IDF instructor to decide what users can and can't say about Israel. And for those who don't know, I was banned by TikTok for talking about Gaza rather quickly. Within 2 months of basically using the platform, I was banned with no right to appeal. Also, I just covered it the other day that Paramount, which owns CBS, which owns Colbert's show, they have all been bought by the IDF's largest personal funder, Larry Ellison, the second richest man in the world, who is a huge Zionist. And he and his son run Skydance, which bought all of those entities. So now CBS, if it wasn't already, will be the most ridiculously pro-Israel entity, as well as Paramount, all the stuff that Paramount owns, as well as, Barry Weiss is this crazy lunatic Zionist is likely to become the editor of CBS News. So she'll be deciding whether you say positive enough things about Israel. These things are all connected. All these measures are primarily about monitoring and censoring critics of Israel. And so one of the tactics to get around all of this censorship is VPNs. And, there's certain VPNs that now sponsor shows. I don't have one sponsoring me. I wish I did right now so I could be like, which is why you should use. It'd be the perfect segue, but I don't, if a VPN out there wants to send me money, then please do. You can't be one of those Israel VPNs. By the way, Israel, if you're going to get a VPN, look up which ones Israel created, because I guarantee you Israel is collecting all the data from the VPNs that they've created. So you have to get VPNs that are outside of Israel. Anyway, so governments are now trying to crack down on VPNs because those are dangerous to their ability to censor you. He mentions that Peter Kyle, a member of parliament in the UK, let the cat out of the bag when he pleaded with the public to not use VPNs. Please stop using the thing that doesn't let us censor you. It makes no difference to a child whether adults access restricted content by age verification or VPN. The only relevant factor is that if you use a VPN, the government can't spy on you. Kyle is mad that you are circumventing government surveillance. VPNs are seeing a huge surge in users because people do not want to be spied on. A ban on VPNs would simply enable your government to spy on you. Some internet service providers are already blocking access to VPNs. I think, is it HBO Max that, like, if you try and use it, There's a few different websites you try and use it with a VPN, and they say you can't use it unless you turn off your VPN. You have to. We have to be able to track you. Some small good news, though. Australia is about to recognize Palestine as a state. So, a little bit of good news there. Now, of course, if you want to recognize Palestine as a state, stop doing everything else that facilitates Israel's genocide. And, Australia is one of the Five Eyes with the US, UK, and others, Canada, that have, hegemony over this world and are facilitating, allowing, funding, arming Israel. So, Australia, you want to step back from that too? Maybe all the ridiculous anti-China propaganda you pump out. How about that, Australia? Do that. That'd be nice. Okay, I got to get to the story before we run out of time. Ray McGovern has put out an article for Consortium News, and it's amazing how little coverage this gets. I mean, of course, the mainstream media doesn't want to cover about all the details that are coming out about how laughable Russiagate was. There's more information coming out by the day, and they don't want to cover that because the mainstream media acted like Russiagate was gospel for years, 4 years, 6 years. I've lost count how many years it's been of them just spitting Russiagate down our faces. That's a mixed metaphor if I've ever heard one. And here they are. Of course, I've been revealing how it's been collapsing for years, but we get more information by the day. And here's the latest. By the way, Ray McGovern, with one of his most clever headlines ever, the deep state's burst appendix. Get it? It's an appendix on a document, but it's a burst appendix. You follow that? He says, small wonder that the deep state tried to keep under lock and key the explosive appendix to Special Counsel Durham's anemic May 2023 report on the Russiagate scandal. You might remember the Durham report. Everyone thought it was going to reveal all these crazy Russia did this or that, and it revealed essentially nothing. When Kash Patel won Senate approval to the FBI director and Kash Patel's fucking grifter goon who says that Epstein killed himself and et cetera, but on Russiagate, he's right. And that's the thing. Trump and his goons are a broken clock. They're right twice a day. Former CIA Director Brennan and former FBI Director Comey have lawyered up because they know what they did was, illegal. But if you own the law, then it's not illegal. But then a new administration comes in and sees that you did illegal shit. Senator Grassley was lamenting that the FBI lawyer got a slap on the wrist after falsifying a FISA court application to eavesdrop on Trump associate Carter Page. I'm not going to dig into the weeds on all the details of this, but you might remember Carter Page was kind of the in for them to spy on Trump. So in order to spy on Trump, they needed to come up with some bullshit reason to spy on someone in his realm. And so they picked Carter Page, and it was falsified so that they could spy on Carter Page and Trump. Carter Page, who was supposed to have been the linchpin of the Russia-Trump collusion, which was all bullshit. But Special Counsel Mueller's $32 million 2-year investigation found no such collusion. You might also recall that, a lot of liberal idiots across this country think that the Mueller report found that Russia rigged the 2016 election. That is not the one the Mueller report found. The Mueller report tried to brought indictments against 14 Russians at a clickbait farm in St. Petersburg and ultimately dropped all those indictments because they had no connection to anything. They could not prove that these people were connected to Putin. They couldn't prove that this clickbait farm had influenced the election. It was nothing. And yet you have most Americans, because they watch Rachel Maddow, going, the Mueller report proved that Russia rigged the da-da-da. It's like, it's not what it said. Reportedly, Kash Patel had some luck in finding a secret room at FBI headquarters. Because he's Patel and Trump and his goons are such grifter morons, I'd suspect this is not a secret room at FBI headquarters, but I do think the documents they're revealing are genuine. I think they're just making up that they were in burn bags and they tried to cover it up, but we found them. I don't know. Really? Or were they just in the FBI files and you found them? Among these documents were particularly damning 29-page secret appendix to the not-so-thorough 4-year-long investigation by Durham, appointed by Trump's first-term Attorney General Barr in May 2019 to look into the origins of the Russiagate mess. I might have said that Durham was like Mueller and was trying. Everyone thought Durham was going to reveal that Russiagate had happened, but no, it's the reverse. Trump hired Durham to reveal all the ins and outs of Russiagate. It ended up kind of being like a nothing burger. But anyway, here's the appendix that was covered up. The appendix reveals that Obama intended to scuttle any FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's mishandling of classified information. Remember that investigation going on in 2015? And it is replete with evidence that the Clinton campaign, with the help of special services, 2016, with the help of special services, were hatching plots to falsely connect Trump to Russia. So this is the key thing in this appendix. It shows that they found out that the Clinton campaign had decided to falsely connect WikiLeaks revelations of real Clinton emails. None of them were proven false. Nothing WikiLeaks has ever printed has been proven false. They're real emails, but Clinton decided to connect Russia to Trump to try and get people to ignore all of these real corruption emails. During the first stage of the campaign, due to a lack of direct evidence, it was decided to disseminate the necessary information about alleged Russian interference through the FBI-affiliated technical structures, in particular CrowdStrike and ThreatConnect companies, from where the information would then be disseminated through leading U.S. publications. You'll recall CrowdStrike is the only organization that ever saw the DNC servers that were supposedly hacked by Russia. Why did CrowdStrike not let why did the DNC not let the FBI see the actual servers? I wonder why the DNC only allowed CrowdStrike, a DNC-funded company, to see the servers and to say, oh, yeah, Russia did it. By the way, under oath in front of Congress, the head of CrowdStrike said they have no proof that Russia actually stole any data. So that's kind of important, don't you think? Julianne Smith says it was a long-term affair to demonize Putin and Trump. Now it is good for a post-DNC convention bounce. That's one of the information they found. It is a logical deduction Smith was at minimum playing a role in Clinton campaign's efforts to tie Trump to Russia, and the communications Durham reviewed certainly lends some credence that such a plan existed. Obama sanctioned the use of all administrative levers to remove possible negative effects from the FBI investigation of cases related to the Clinton Foundation and the email correspondence to the State Department. Based on information from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you remember her? Everyone loves her. The FBI does not possess any kind of direct evidence against Clinton because of their timely deletion from email servers. How lucky. On July 26, 2016, Clinton approved a plan. And this is so key, because if this was legitimate, if Trump's ties to Russia, Russia did the hacking, all that was legitimate, you wouldn't have to approve a plan to reveal things before they're revealed. You only approve a plan to connect these things if they don't actually exist, right? Like, you don't get together in a boardroom and go, well, we don't have evidence of this, but let's just say Russia did this thing if you actually had evidence. You approve that plan if you don't have evidence, and then you try and cook up the evidence. So, July 26, Clinton approved a plan, 2016, from her advisor by magnifying the scandal tied to intrusion by Russian secret services in the pre-election process to benefit the Republican candidate. As envisioned by Smith, raising the theme of Putin's support for Trump to the level of a giant scandal would divert the constituents' attention from the investigation on Clinton. And it succeeded for the most part in that regard. In late July 2016, U.S. intelligence services obtained insight into Russian intelligence analysis, alleging that U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton had approved a campaign to plan to stir up the scandal that Trump was tied to Putin. And again, like, this was covered up, right? They had this evidence. They knew that Clinton approved a fake plan to tie Trump to Russia without there being evidence. Former CIA Director Brennan subsequently briefed Obama and other national security officials on that intelligence, said Clinton had approved that plan. September 7th, 2016, so this is right before the election, U.S. intelligence officials forwarded an investigative referral to FBI Director Comey and Deputy Assistant Sturzak regarding U.S. presidential candidate Clinton's approval of a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections as a means of distracting the public from her use of the private mail server. July 26, 2016. It was also to distract, they're not mentioning, it was also to distract people from the emails that WikiLeaks was revealing. Like, they showed a lot of corruption. They showed Clinton's connections to CNN and her getting debate questions beforehand. They showed Citibank had picked Obama's entire cabinet his first term. Like, they showed John Podesta and all of his creepy shit. Like, all this stuff's coming out, and so Clinton has to try and say, oh, ignore all of that. It was Russia doing it to help Trump. July 26, 2016, the timing may be a coincidence, so the same day that Clinton reportedly endorsed the big push to tie Trump to Russia, David Sanger and Eric Schmidt of the New York Times co-authored an article titled "Spy Agency Consensus Grows That Russia Hacked the DNC." Same day. Coincidence? I think not. That's called Hillary Clinton calls up the New York Times and says, we need a push on this. And by the way, we found that this was not true. I know, the New York Times is printing something not true. The spy agency consensus was not growing that Russia had hacked the DNC. In fact, we've now seen documents, seen the receipts, showing that FBI and DHS, and NSA were actually had low confidence Russia hacked the DNC. Washington says, this is from the New York Times, American intelligence agency have told the White House they now have high confidence, false, that the Russian government was behind the theft of emails and documents from the DNC, according to federal officials who've been briefed on the evidence. So that's the end of what the new revelations that have just come out about this appendix that was covered up at the time. As Ray McGovern says, some of us got Russiagate right. He means from day one. And we are pledged to stay at it. And of course, Ray McGovern's had it right since day one. I've had it right since day one. Aaron Mate's had it right since day one. There's many of us who've had it right since day one. And some of us have had our careers, I don't want to say my career is destroyed. Luckily, you guys make this show still possible. But, 75, 80% of my career destroyed for being right on this topic, right on Ukraine proxy war, right on Assad and chemical weapons, right on all of these things, right on genocide. Career mostly destroyed. But again, you guys make this show possible. So I don't have time, it turns out. I've done a longer episode than I thought to play a clip from Unredacted Tonight, but you can go watch it right now. So you're really not missing anything. Go check out Unredacted Tonight. The quickest place to get to the playlist is leecamp.com/unredacted. And I would love for you to support this show by going to leecamp.net or patreon.com and become a supporter. It's leecamp.net, and that'll take you straight to my locals page, or go to patreon.com/leecamp and become a supporter there. Also, if you're looking for a larger streaming network that brings you all kinds of documentaries, series, all kinds of awesome pro-worker, pro-peace, anti-war, anti-capitalist content. That's means.tv. Go there. When you're checking out, click coupon code, type in the name Lee. I'm not sure where they got that coupon code from. Somewhere nefarious. And you'll get 20% off, which will make it cost like, I think, $7 or 7 something a month. And you'll be supporting this show. You'll be supporting all the other content. Yes, Astrolab in the comments says you're broke. And I am sorry to hear that, but I also understand that. So I put out loads of free content because I understand not everybody can support the show. I understand not everybody has $6, $7 a month, which, I know that's not a lot of money, but some people don't have it. So I understand that. And that's why I put out just crazy amounts of free content, live streams 3 days a week for an hour. I put out podcasts constantly. I put out Unredacted at night for free. So leecamp.com/unredacted. I unfortunately will not see you Wednesday. I have to go to an event, but I will see you Thursday for Unredacted and Friday for another live stream, 3 p.m. Eastern. And I will also maybe bring you an extra segment because I'm missing you Wednesday. But thanks a lot and keep fighting.